podcast. I'm Kyle, joined by my brother Keenan. Keenan, nice to have
Absolutely.
you. We're going to do a little speed round right here, lightning round of a review of the first round. We figured we'd check in. By the time you hear from us again, a couple of these series might be over, so we figured we'd do a brief check-in on these playoff series. Keenan, how you doing?
I'm great. Jimmy, like playoff Jimmy. We're gonna just start there. I can't help it. 56. Wade dropped 46 against the Celtics. That was an iconic game. LeBron had 49. That was the Heat record. And Jimmy just said bye to both of those by a good margin. 10 for Wade, 6 or 7 for LeBron. He was unstoppable. There was nothing he couldn't do last night. It was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I don't even know what to make of this series. But starting with the game last night, yeah, Jimmy Butler was incredible. They really had no business winning that. Would they end up winning by 6, 8 points?
I think it was 119 to 114, if I remember correctly. I think that
So they
was
end up winning by
roughly
two.
around.
They end up winning by two possessions. Yeah. I guess that's all right, but they're down 12 with about 4.5, 5 minutes left. And then they erase the lead on a quick 13-0 run. Jimmy hits those back-to-back threes.
Yeah.
And Milwaukee couldn't really score after that. And then before you knew it, they were up 4 or 5 points with 30 seconds left. Milwaukee couldn't get what they want out of their offense. Before you know it, the game's over. I thought it was pretty wild. It was already a great Jimmy Butler performance. It was already a good game. You know, Jimmy Butler had put up 22 in the first quarter, only put up 2 in the second quarter. And, you know, the Heat were playing with the Bucks, as you expected, even with Giannis back.
Yep.
You know, as I mentioned at the end of your MVP series the other day, when we were talking and we knew this game was coming up, you know, we didn't know if Giannis would be playing or not. And I wasn't really worried even if he didn't. You know, I thought the Bucks would at least tie up the series even without Giannis. And then they get Giannis back, and it apparently didn't matter. And, Jimmy Butler didn't get much help as far as the scoring department. Obviously, it's a team win, but that was an old school MJ, Kobe, Iverson type of game where your star gets,
shout out to
damn near
Wade
50%
too.
of the points. And Dwayne Wade, 50% of your points, damn near high 40% of your points. That's insane. Jimmy's different. He kind of debunked the playoff Jimmy thing last night. He's like, there's no such thing. But it's true. Great players really just raise their game in the playoffs. You know, that's what you're supposed to do. Whether it's, no matter what sport you're in, you're supposed to play better when it matters than the regular season. So shouts to Jimmy. Love seeing Jimmy win. He doesn't make excuses. You never hear him be like, oh, I need this, I need that. He just goes out and plays. And they're up 3-1 somehow. How do you feel? What do you think for Game 5? What's it look like here?
There's no way Milwaukee loses. Like, I think the series goes at least 6, if not 7. I don't think Giannis is not going to allow them to lose on his own floor. There's no way
I can't see it either. Matter of fact, this is the first time that someone's been down 3-1 and I've been like almost positive that the team with 1 win is going to come back, at least to make it 7. But I don't know. Game 6 would certainly be tough. I don't think they're necessarily going to blow out Miami next game, but I don't know. I definitely see Milwaukee winning. I would be shocked if they lose in 5 to Milwaukee or to Miami. But I mean, this playoffs has been great so far. Aside from the injuries, everything that's happened. I mean, we say it every year, but it's true. Like, it really is 2 different sports: the NBA regular season and the NBA postseason.
Absolutely.
The level of physicality.
And I mean, the players tell you it too. So
more than ever now, though. Any other thoughts on this series?
Okay, so thoughts on this series here. The repercussions of it's interesting. So we'll probably what I was thinking was just going down the Eastern, like as you would go. So maybe talk about Knicks, Cavs next, and then kind of just go series for series, because then it kind of can set up next round too. So the Heat win this. It's not like an all-time choke because, like, from a 1 seed losing to an 8 seed, because Giannis was injured a couple games, but at the same time, they were losing in Game 1 when he did get injured. Game 2, they blew him out. Game 3, the Heat won. Game 4 was an all-time great Jimmy Butler performance. And then if they lose in 5 or 6, you think to yourself, you're like, okay, the Bucks were probably the favorites going into these playoffs, and then they lose in the first round. The repercussions from that's going to be interesting, even though you could blame it on a Giannis injury, but still. So that's going to be interesting there. And then I don't know if you have any other thoughts on this. If you're moving to the next series, if you do, say, have the Heat who are up 3-1 playing the Knicks who are up 3-1, that's an old school series, and New York could get to the conference finals for the first time since 99?
Yeah, it'd be 99. I'll answer the first one first. If the Bucks lose in 5, it's absolutely a choke job. They should at least get to 6 games, especially with you basically had Giannis out for 2 3/4 of a game, right?
Yeah.
And we expected the Heat to play them tough, but he got injured really early in Game 1. You said they were losing. I mean, I think, look, last night, Miami goes on that 13-0 run. Budenholzer does not call a timeout until they get ahead, right? They actually even gave up a basket, gave up a Jimmy Butler dunk, trying to call the timeout before that. I didn't really see the replay of that. They kind of cut away as it was happening and then cut back to the game as the steal was going on. So I didn't even really get to see the full highlight of that. I thought that was an interesting play because it seems like Lowry stripped Giannis there. So it's completely on Giannis there. But for Budenholzer not to call a timeout at any point during that run, I thought that was interesting. They kind of got a gift at the end of the game. You know, the game could be over with under 10 seconds in a 2-possession game, but I still think there's a chance when the Bucks have a timeout. They get a gift. The Heat miss a foul shot. It's probably about 7 seconds left, actually. They got 1 timeout left. I'm thinking you call a timeout and try to get a 3 there, then foul, and then, you play it out as long as you can.
Yep.
They don't call a timeout, and they go down and get nothing. And I thought the game was still, it's probably less than 5% that you even come back and tie, but you still have a puncher's chance right there with 1 timeout with 7.
That is your season
left.
Essentially. I mean, obviously the series is not over, degree. And it's not like with them being the 1 seed and them having the best player in the league, you can come. Yeah, that's that's kind of your season essentially. Like coming back from 3-1 is very tough. Could they win 3 in a row? Sure, but you pull out every stop you possibly can to get to that point. So I agree with you there. But otherwise, I have nothing else on this series unless you do.
No, can't wait for Game 5. We got a loaded Wednesday of Game 5s, do or die Game 5s, as I like to call them. There's not much on this series. The Bucks just got to.
As we talked about on the other pod that we had done, I hate the Wednesday schedule. There's too many important games on that day. Just spread them out. Wednesday schedule's terrible.
Yeah, there's no way. This is the only. I mean, it'd be hard to think about, but I cannot remember ever in years past where there's 4 Game 5s not only on a Wednesday, but all 4 being viewed on a Wednesday. I don't know. 2 are going to be on at this. The East Coast games are going to be on at the same time. And then we'll have Lakers, Grizzlies, and Warriors, Kings on at the same time, basically. That was a wild game last night, too. But, we'll talk about the Knicks, Cavs. Knicks, Cavs, I think this series is over. I think Knicks got it. That's whether the Cavs win tonight, right? Tonight's their... No, they play tomorrow as well. Their Game 5's tomorrow. Whether the Knicks...
It's okay, so tonight is Boston, Atlanta, Nuggets,
Hawks,
Timberwolves,
Nuggets,
and Suns, Clippers.
Nuggets, Wolves. Very true. Yeah, those are the 3 games tonight. And tomorrow we're getting Knicks, Cavs, Heat, Bucks, and then the 2 the Cali teams all play. But fuck was I saying? Knicks, I think Knicks got it either way. Whether it goes back to the Garden or whether they win in Cleveland, I think they're the better team. They ain't got anything from Julius Randle this series, and they're still 3-1. I mean, that says quite a bit. Donovan Mitchell, he's been MIA. You thought he would at least. I mean, you talk about playoff insert player here. Donovan Mitchell's usually been pretty good in the playoffs. Last year aside, because he didn't have the greatest series last year. That's someone you can usually count on to at least get you more than 11 points, in a must-win game. But I don't know. It's weird because I think me and you, first of all, I'm kicking myself for picking Cleveland before the series because I've been singing the Knicks praises all year, or at least certainly the second half of the year. I said, that's a second-round team building on a contender status into next year. And look like they're going to be a second-round team. I think Jalen Brunson is – I don't want to put a number on it on what guard he is, but, I'd probably take him over a Donovan Mitchell in the playoffs. I'd probably take him over – pick a few guards in the playoffs. Like, he's just proven it. Even last year with the Mavericks – I said going into this season, I said coming into this season, you take Brunson off the Mavericks are going to have a tough time replacing that. And look where the Mavericks are. He is just such a smart one-on-one scorer. He's not necessarily like Garland. Garland's a really good point guard, right? Like he's got a tremendous feel for the game. He can get you 15 assists on his best night, right? He can get you 30 points on his best night. Brunson, he's probably like an 8-assist guy. You know what I mean? Maybe 11 on his best night. Yeah. But he's just always going to make the right basketball play. He's just got such a smart feel for the game. And even him being undersized doesn't hurt him against a wing defender, against a bigger defender. He's usually got the advantage against a big on a switch in a pick and roll situation. He's just incredibly smart, especially from that mid-range and in. He can just get whatever he wants. He's a tough kid. I mean, he's a Villanova kid, ain't he? He went to Nova. So, I don't know. He's made of the right ingredients, as they say. And, they got Josh Hart, another Villanova kid over there, who is perfect for the Knicks. Well. Like, he is perfect for the Knicks. That was one of the best moves at the deadline. And they're due for a Randall game. And if they get that, there's a high chance they get the Cavs out of here tomorrow. So, yeah. I don't know. I was hoping for a 7-game series, but looks like it might be over in 5. And you know what? They got the pedigree. They got Tibbs. They got Brunson. I mean, a lot of those guys on the Knicks have been there. Whereas the Cavs, it's really Donovan Mitchell and some of their bench, maybe.
This is going to be a very interesting. I'm hoping for obviously Heat, Knicks second round. I'd love to see that. Those are both two teams that I feel are a piece away from being like contenders. Like they can definitely compete with, as we've already seen, the Heat are up 3-1 on the Bucks. We know Giannis was out 2 games, and then the Knicks are up 3-1 on the Cavs, and they've just been outplaying them in all aspects there. But it's going to be very interesting to see that series. Hopefully, if it happens, obviously we have to wait for the chips to fall as they do. But in the coming years, I feel like people are going to start to want to go to New York. You'll see you seeing the progress, you're seeing the promise from people, from players, and then I feel obviously Miami's always been a destination. So with those two, I think you could really get them to be a true contender next season or possibly the season after. Just all depends on what they do in the offseason.
Yeah, with Miami, in their case, they kind of lucked out. Honestly, especially if they win the series, they lucked out because I don't know what their offseason looks like if they get booted in the first round. Would Jimmy get a little antsy? Would he want to maybe look elsewhere, maybe demand a trade midseason, something like that? They just have a weird team. They have so many shooting, like spot-up shooting 2 guards, and specifically 2 guards. They're not spot-up wings like Hero, Martin. Who else? Gabe Vincent,
Duncan
Strus.
Robinson,
like they're
Gabe
all the
Vincent.
same. Duncan Robinson, they're all the same player, and Heroes might be the exception there, where who can play the 2 and the 3. But all of them seem like they're just like Two guards.
Hero can play make a little bit, but everybody else is just like spot up shooters who can kind of do a little bit off the bounce too. But like good for kudos to Eric Spoelstra because he really is taking. He's really just taking like players who they have 5 undrafted players I believe
turning water
in their
wine.
rotation, and he's taking them. Yeah, I was gonna say so. Shout out to Eric Spoelstra, who I could argue is the best coach in the league right now.
I don't know how he does it. I don't know how they're doing it. 2-1, sure. 3-1, if you told me Giannis was out this game, they really had no business winning this game. And that sounds disrespectful, but seriously, like, go look at the box score. It was Jimmy and nobody else on the offensive end. You know, they played their defense. Other people got buckets when it mattered. Bam even got a couple buckets down the stretch there. But Jimmy Butler, that was a throwback performance. It really was. He had zero help offensively. But, yeah, as far as the offseason goes, yeah, I agree. I think the Heat are like a player and a half away, especially after they. By the way, they lost Oladipo the other night. We didn't even mention that. They lost Oladipo, who wasn't necessarily playing great, but was just another guy you could throw in there in your rotation, aside from spot up shooting, and can play the wing a little bit, play the point.
And they lost Oladipo because they lost Tyler Hero.
Yeah, exactly. So they're down 2 out of their top 9. So now they're just down to whoever. Kevin Love's giving you heavy minutes, and they're still winning. I think the Bucks come back. But, I think they're 2 players short. I think the Knicks are on the right trajectory. I think they get a piece, whether that's via trade, whether that's adding someone via free agency this year to their depth, because I'm not really sure of the free agent class this year and what they would want on the timeline. They probably want another wing.
Chris Middleton, Fred VanVleet, obviously, depending Westbrook, Harden, like those are kind of your top ones this year. If they could get Fred VanVleet, I would really like that. Actually, I think that would fit. I think that him and Brunson in the backcourt, I think that could be very interesting. Or possibly, I know he's been playing well these playoffs, but if you moved off of R.J. Barrett, you could try to get something there. But at the same time, he's been developing.
I don't think that's happening. I think they're pretty.
I don't think
they seem to be big on R.J. They seem to be big on RJ. I couldn't see them getting Van Vliet just because Brunson's also an undersized guard. So I couldn't see them going double undersized guard, especially with Tibbs. He's a defensive guy. Yeah. I could see them adding to their bench and then down the road making a trade for an impact player, whether that's Towns, whether that's Embiid, whoever it might be next year that's unhappy. Embiid's been linked to him because I believe Leon Rose is his former agent, blah, blah, blah. But no, I think the Knicks are on the right track. I'm loving watching them. There's nothing like the Garden in the playoffs, like nothing like it. The further they make it, kind of like I was saying with the Kings, how, the Kings is going to be one of the loudest arenas you hear this playoffs. The deeper the Knicks make it, that's going to be one of the louder arenas you hear in the playoffs. But no, it's been enjoyable. I'm glad to have the Knicks back in prominence. Feels great, feels right. But they still got to finish the Cavs off. I believe they will. But I did not expect them to be up 3-1. I thought for sure they'd be going up 2-2 heading back to Cleveland. But
same.
Here we are.
I thought it was going to be 2-2, but that's what happens. That's why you play the games. So Sixers sweep. Kind of shocked a little bit. I thought the Brooklyn would get at least 1, but it was a sweep. They were obviously they're the better team. The Harden foul ejection, that was garbage. Embiid not being ejected, I thought that was just as garbage. Claxton got thrown out of that game. It was all game 3. Claxton got thrown out for the second technical, which I thought he should not have gotten at all. So
for a stare down.
That's a bigger problem of the reffing. The entire playoffs has been shaky all over. So, but the Sixers did what they were supposed to do. I don't really have much to say on the Sixers at all, other than Harden needs to wake up because he can get by Brooklyn with that, but he's not going to get by Boston with the effort he put in throughout the series.
Yeah, he had a great game 1. Game 2 was not that great. Game 3 he gets ejected for not much. And then game 4 he played okay. I didn't really peep that game too much. I was at work and I was kind of watching it in and out. Yeah, it was kind of a tune-up series for him. It's going to be tough on him anyway with the size of our wings. The closer we get to that series, the Sixers-Celtics series, the less confident I am in the Sixers. The more confident I'm feeling in the Celtics with all their options. With if they wanted to play fast, I think they could get Philly the fuck out of here. Philly does not play great transition defense. They do not play well against teams who pick up the pace on them. Embiid looks like the injury's less serious than what Doc gave us for a prognosis. He said it'd be 50-50. Looks like he's going to play game one. Looks like it would be like a 1 week injury is what I read.
Yeah, that's what I saw too. He's going to be 50-50
if they can
for
steal
Saturday.
one within the first 2 games in Boston, I think that's great for them. If we went up 2-0, I'd expect them to either tie it up or get it, at least win one at home. But shit, if we went up 3-1 on them, it would not be a good look for Philly at all. I do expect a 2-2 somewhere in there, but I do think there's aspects of it where the Celtics are just a bad matchup for them. Now, if Embiid can kick out of the double team, find his shooters, pick his spots correctly, and just dominate one-on-one, we're going to have trouble. But they got to stop us on the other end. They got to stop the 3-ball because we're going to be jacking them up. It'll be a challenging series for Philly. But like you said, if James Harden can at least be 85% of what he used to be in Houston during the playoffs, at least look for his 3-point shot. We're going to have trouble guarding Maxey. Maxey's going to get his buckets regardless. They could definitely make it a series. And, the deeper that series gets, obviously the better chance they have. But, look, this is supposed to be the best Embiid we've ever seen, the best version of him, right? Looks like he's going to be the MVP. He's had disappointing series in the past against the Celtics where he just hasn't played well. He's got to be, without a doubt, at least, we got to leave this series at least saying, okay, he was the second best player to Tatum in the series. At least saying that. And ideally, you want to leave, if you're a Philly fan, you want to leave here saying, okay, win or lose, he was the best player in that series. We just lost because of, X, Y, Z. But, hey, this is the year for Philly. And there's a lot of rumors every time shit seems sweet for Philly. Every time shit seems sweet for Philly, every single time we get this James Harden's going back to Houston right now. Every single time. Christmas Day we heard it. Right after the deadline we heard it. A couple weeks after the deadline we heard it. And now right in the middle of the playoffs we hear it. I don't know why the hell James Harden would want to go back to Houston from Philly. Or, they're a rebuilding team.
It makes no sense on either side.
We've heard it too many times now for us not to take it seriously as basketball fans. But it's still one I'll believe when I see. But the fact that it's still coming up even during the playoffs, that Harden's thinking about going back to Houston, aiming to go back to Houston, not just thinking about it, it's kind of concerning. So don't be afraid. I won't be shocked when I see.
I don't really get it, to be honest with you. I think he's maybe just going there for a lifestyle change. Like he just doesn't want to be in Philly anymore. He wants to be back in Houston with the nightlife.
Apparently he still has the keys. Apparently he can still he still goes back to the arena and gets shots up whenever he wants when he goes back in the summer and shit like that. And apparently just has a good relationship with their owner who became the new owner like his last season and a half there. It's really weird. It's bizarre, really, to me. But, that's going to be a story if we see him check out like he normally does. If we see him check out during the playoffs and, it gets to game 6 and James Harden's got 12 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 of 13 from the field with 6 turnovers, guess we're all going to be saying, oh, he's got his eye on Houston. He ain't really caring about this series. So I'm looking forward to that.
James Harden
I think Boston takes care of business tonight against Atlanta.
Absolutely.
Atlanta somewhere in there, and I'll say this too about the Timberwolves. Somewhere in that roster, there's a really good team in there somewhere. Whether that's with Trae or without Trae. There's points where they would, make a run versus the Celtics, but you could see they just did not have the cohesion to like get a defensive stop or, you know, get the right shot on offense. Trae Young, though, the more I think about it, I would love to see Trae Young either on a team like Brooklyn, who's like full of defensive wings, you know, and full of just like hustle guys. Like they got a lot of guys you'd want to play with on that Brooklyn team as far as wings go. They're bigs. Like they got a lot of smart players in Brooklyn. I think Trae Young would fit over there. Or if you put Trae Young with another star where he's like certified number 2, I think Trae Young would be super dangerous as a number 2 option. You know, like if the number 1's a big, like Embiid. Let's say for some reason he ended up in Philly and it was him and Embiid. I think that would be crazy beneficial for Trae Young to be the number 2 option to someone like an Embiid. Again, not saying this will happen. There's probably slim to none chance he ends up in Philly. But if, you know, someone like that, someone of that stature, an MVP type player with Trae Young as your number 2, he's such an amazing playmaker. Trae Young, he can get to anywhere he wants in the court. I think he's a better playmaker than he is shooter, and that's what he was billed as kind of coming into the league was the next Steph Curry. So he's an interesting player. He's a tough player to probably play with and build around in some ways, but I don't know. They have an interesting offseason to me, especially with their new hire of Quinn Snyder and all that.
If Trae Young is your second best player, you are definitely a championship contender. If Trae Young is your first best player, you are a playoff contender. You're a team that can. If Trae Young's your second best player, you're definitely a championship contender. I mean, obviously it depends on the roster second, but like, yeah, I would say Joel Embiid and Trae Young, you are a championship contender. Say take off Jason Tatum and Trae Young, you are a championship contender. Jokic and Trae Young, like I can go on. Anthony Davis and Trae Young, because Anthony Davis I think is in a weird spot, but yeah, for the most, I mean any fit, yeah, Trae Young and whomever is going to be a. Yeah, I mean that's a different problem in its own right, honestly. But I love Trae Young to Brooklyn. I talked about this at work actually because there was talks obviously right before the Heat game where Trae Young might be moving. It might be the last game in Atlanta because there was rumors or whatever. So we were talking about Brooklyn. I really do like that. Me personally, just for the spectacle of it, I would like to see him in New York. I think that him in the New York crowd would be crazy. So I think that they would embrace him and he would embrace playing in
the Knicks
in New York.
Knicks?
No, see, like it was more so I don't think he fits that team really. It was more so a personal, like I think that the Knicks would embrace him even though he's been the villain there. Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know.
If they got someone electrifying like that, I feel like they would definitely love that. But I mean, their team. But this is also, I was thinking about this before, because I didn't think the Knicks were going to be as potent as they have been this playoffs, and so like going forward now, he wouldn't fit really within that. But before that, I was just thinking to myself that Trae Young's showmanship in New York, I think, would be great. That was kind of more so what I was thinking. He would put on shows for them, and he would really embrace that New York crowd.
Not sure how the winning would go, but yeah, it would be all right. It would be all right. Yeah. Especially if he did put on some shooting performances. I mean, this year he shot like 32%, but I see what you're saying with the Knicks.
Yeah, but it was more so that. I mean, the basketball component of it, I don't think would be as great. I just more so the crowd and kind of aspect of that there. But Brooklyn I do like a lot, and if you could pair him with a big, that would be great there. But and also going kind of forward, we were talking about Atlanta. I think unless Embiid goes crazy, I don't see them beating Boston. And for Boston, this couldn't be more of a fortunate playoff run. They missed having to play the tough team in Miami because they lost to Atlanta, so they've had a much lighter series against Atlanta. If they do get Milwaukee, they're going to get a Milwaukee that's having to come off a 7-game series against the Heat, and then they're coming off probably at least a 6 against the Knicks. I would assume that Knicks team's not going to go down lightly. So they're going to be battle-tested. I mean, they're going to be worn down from these two battles. If not, they're playing either Miami or New York, which is obviously lesser of the two teams. They played Miami last year. That went to Game 7, or they're playing New York, which are going to be physical series, but not as I thought that their playoff run was going to be. And so they might be even more fresh for the finals. That's obviously projecting farther ahead, but I think this has been very fortunate for Boston thus far in the playoffs in the East.
So far, yes. If everything holds court, we'll know more after Wednesday.
Oh, of course, yeah.
But
yeah,
if the Heat happen to pull it out and the Knicks happen to pull it out and we get a Knicks Heat semifinal, which would be crazy. It'd be shouts to the late 90s is what that would be.
Yeah.
Then Boston's certainly fortunate. Then they have home court the rest of the playoffs in the East.
Mm-hmm.
That would be wild. I'm still, as we said earlier, I'm not discounting Milwaukee just yet. I think they.
Oh, absolutely not.
They definitely come away with a win. Like I think it's a higher chance we get a Game 6 than it is that Miami is in the second round by Thursday morning. You know what I mean, or by Wednesday night. So we'll see what happens this weekend because I believe the Bucks will win tomorrow, as you do too. But if that is the case and everything holds court, it's certainly more fortunate for the Celtics, who would not want to face Miami. God forbid Miami somehow makes it to the conference finals. Philly's going to be a low. Don't get it twisted. Like I like our chances against.
That's
going
to be a series. Don't worry me wrong.
Should be. Yeah, it should be. It really depends on Harden. It really does, as we were saying. Yeah. But I still think the rest of their cast will step up. I think we're going to see the best version of Embiid. But yeah, if Harden could simply, engage himself and not be the James Harden of the past, it could be tough on us. But I'll believe it when I see it with him. But I do think, we'll talk about that series prior, probably with Camden before that, once that series is official. But if like you said, if that's the case though, it does get easier for the Celtics immediately if the Bucks are out of the playoffs.
Yes, 100%. And moving on to the West, we'll start the 1-8 there because that's where we started in the East.
Time out. I do want to say something though.
You
mentioned the refs. Yep. You mentioned the refs earlier. I think the officiating's better in the playoffs as it usually is. Like I think most of the games I watch, I'm like, the officials are letting them play. Or there's moments like, I think it was the Lakers Grizzlies last night where they weren't really letting people play and they were calling everything kind of ticky-tack. That shit I don't like at all. But I think for the most part, aside from the tees, like you said, like the technicals, the flagrants, that shit I can do without. That's a nightmare every fucking year. I forget what game it was last night, and it really doesn't matter because it's every single game. And I know they instituted the rule a couple years ago, but like the whole, like when you slide your foot underneath someone, is that a flagrant? Is this play where someone's clearly, ripping the ball back, right? Like he's ripping the ball, he's trying to evade people reaching, and he catches someone with an elbow. Is that a flagrant? That shit I can do without. Like I really do believe the level of physicality that is not played during the regular season, how they let everything be freedom of movement, and then the playoffs come and you allow it to be back to the 2010s, back to the 2000s, back to the 90s with some of these series, right? I really think that's part of some of these injuries, or like part of like what you see out of these players in the playoffs. Like if you're going from literally like JV basketball to varsity, just to use that kind of analogy, or no, from regular basketball to hockey damn near in the playoffs. Like it's so much more physical now than it was 3 weeks ago in the regular
practice
season.
Scrimmages to game to
the real game,
playoff games. That's like what the NBA season has become, like advanced scrimmages at times. Like it's like okay,
it really
cool,
is.
But
that's perfect.
They're advanced scrimmages, essentially, and they're working out the kinks. They're just going through the motions, and then you get back to hi, Danny's arm, and then you get back to.
I was gonna say like, Danny, what's up?
No, she was just stretching her arm, and just out of nowhere, you just see this claw come up in the background. But yeah, you get to the playoffs, and players aren't prepared to play. I mean, the two teams that have obviously there's been multiple teams, but like the Knicks, they don't really rest people. They've been prepared every day. Miami doesn't fully rest people. They've just had injury problems. They're prepared. The teams that seem to not be resting players like consistently seem to be the more prepared teams throughout the playoffs thus far, at least to me. And I think that's kudos to the regular season and them actually preparing themselves to move forward and play in May and June.
Let's move on to the Western Conference. I'm sure I'll have more complaints about the rest in the future.
This first series is quick for me. Nuggets, Timberwolves. Anthony Edwards has been a man amongst boys. He's been great. Jokic is obviously doing what Jokic does, and that's being arguably the best center in the league. And the Nuggets are obviously just better than the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves are a little bit chaotic. They're just kind of a mess of a team at times. Like, they have the talent. As you said, there's a really good team within there somewhere. They're just so chaotic that they get in the way of their own good team. But Anthony Edwards is a true star of stars. He's becoming in that superstar class. I think he's just got like another step to take up there. But that's really my takeaway. Has been Anthony Edwards, and the Nuggets are a very good team.
Well, so I don't necessarily agree with that the T-Wolves are chaotic. I just think they haven't had enough games together with Towns missing a lot of this season. I'm really impressed with how they look. You know, they look very, I guess, like they carry themselves almost like a veteran team, right? This team just kind of trying to, like, they almost need like a, I don't want to, their coach is good, right? Chris Finch, that's his name. He's a good coach. I just wonder, like, if they had a Eric Spoelstra, if they had like a Steve Kerr, what this team looks like, because there's a lot of ability with their top seven that they play. Because they play Prince, Kyle Anderson off the bench, and then you got their five of Conley, Anthony Edwards. Who's their three that they start with? Because they don't start Slow-Mo or Prince.
Oh my god!
But Edwards, Conley,
I can't think right now.
Towns, and Gobert. I gotta look it up because I'm forgetting who the fuck.
I got it. You go on.
Fifth guy is. All right, but they all play together, and they're all like playoff season guys. Even Towns and Edwards, you know, from last year, and Towns has had a couple other series, I believe, and he hasn't had the best playoff success.
Nikhil Alexander-Walker, by the way, go on.
That's right, Alexander Walker. They all play well. They're all smart players as far as like Anderson, Conley. Those are like, Kyle Anderson's basically a point guard, and he does a bunch of like Draymond Greenish type shit on offense. He's very Al Horford like, where he's just not wasting any steps out there. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to play defense. He knows how to play both ends of the floor. Yeah. Then you got Conley, who's not only a good spot up shooter, but a floor general himself. Towns is a spot up shooter. Like, that's like, if there's a coach out there who could strictly make Towns almost 3-and-D-ish, right? And you just got Towns really spotting up or doing two dribbles to get to the rim, using Rudy in that pick and roll, and then, you know, whatever on defense, try to get cohesion. You're good there. You're good. And then run your offense through Anthony Edwards as they've been. Yeah, Anthony Edwards is a problem with his athleticism and his size. Denver on the other end, though, he's given them problems. Anthony Edwards is pretty much the only person giving them true problems off the dribble. But man, that offense, as I've said all year, that offense is hyper efficient. They can do whatever they want on offense as far as getting either their best players a shot or anybody a shot. They've even showed me something, especially in the last game. I know the Timberwolves ended up winning in OT, but they showed me something in the last game with being able to get stops down the stretch. They were able to, I think they were down 12 with 2 minutes to go against Minnesota. Came back,
they went on a 12-0 run to bring it to OT.
Yeah, they almost stole it in regulation. Edwards and the gang ends up pulling it out, but I think they win it in 5. I do think it's going to be a good game, though. I think Minnesota's going to give them their best effort. Again, they carry themselves a lot because they ended up with the 8 seed. I think this is truly like a 5 seed. This is truly a 5 seed team playing as an 8. And then that's why you're getting, the effort and the competence that they play with against a Denver team. Like, they look good against Denver. Denver's just better. You know what I mean? But I do think, even with all the mess, even though we called this trade one of the worst trades ever with Gobert, it's one of the reasons why I was so heavy on them on the preseason that, yeah, maybe it all doesn't fit, but they've got enough quality talent and quality players in there to where that's still a good team in there somewhere, no matter how disjointed it could look on defense. They look pretty good to me, even despite all the games their core has not played together. And I really wonder what their offseason looks like, especially if Denver gets them out of here tomorrow. Does Towns get traded? Does Towns get traded? Who do they keep off that bench? Because I believe there is something there. And I believe Finch does do a good job. I think, again, if this is like a Steve Kerr and Eric Spoelstra, a top-tier coach with this squad, like, they could really give Denver problems. And that's not so much on Denver as much as it is that the T-Wolves, as weird as their roster is, they've just got a lot of top-end talent, truly.
Yep.
And the role players are
definitely.
good pieces.
They definitely have a 7 that can compete. I more so meant chaotic. Just sometimes I feel they don't execute well. Like, they just don't do. But but you're right. They do have talent around there. Karl Anthony Towns, like, they have players, and Anthony Edwards is rising and rising. So I do think the Nuggets do get them out of there in 5. Though I don't see them going back to Minnesota. But moving on to the next series.
I don't see it, but I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised either. Wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world, but I don't see it personally. If I had to bet, I would definitely bet Denver. But the Phoenix and the Clippers. So there's a lot about this series. Denver. Phoenix. I've lost confidence in Phoenix in this series specifically alone. So they're having very much trouble without Paul George and without Kawhi Leonard with the Clippers. Russell Westbrook is showing that he's definitely not washed at all. The Clippers, it's going to be interesting what you do this offseason, because do you trust that Paul George and Kawhi can stay healthy?
No.
They're getting a little up. Not that they're getting old by any means, but like they're starting to age a little bit. Like, do you move off of one of them? Do you move off of, I don't move off of both, but like, do you move off of one of them to try to bolster that roster? So my Clippers question's more off-season stuff, because I don't think they're winning the series, especially without Kawhi. The Suns are, as I felt, like, if you had to give me percentage, 60-40 that they were going to beat the Nuggets, which isn't really much, but I would have leaned them to beat the Nuggets. I'm now at like a 40-60, I would lean the Nuggets. The Nuggets are just such a more cohesive team. They know who they are. Michael Porter Jr. is playing well. Jamal Murray's getting back to that playoff Murray that he is. So Phoenix has one way to win. It feels like they don't feel like they can get consistent stops. Like, so their way to win is Devin Booker, Chris Paul a little bit, and Kevin Durant make mid-range jump shots for the most part, and then they'll hit some threes. And Tony Craig needs to play big. And I don't love that for them.
Yeah, Torrey Craig's had the series of his life so far. I think my issues with them, or why I don't think they're going to make it too far, I think I had them in the conference final. No, I think I had them losing to Denver in the second round, right?
I had them in the conference finals, and I don't know about that anymore.
Yeah, I feel the same as I was before, which is they have about 6 players, you know. I did not think that was going to be enough, and clearly it's not, because they're playing Booker and Durant, you know, NBA Finals minutes right now. They're playing 42 minutes a game, 45 minutes a game. Chris Paul's not wanting to take open threes. That's concerning to me, because that's what it'll look like a lot of the times if it's not running through him in the pick and roll in the fourth quarter, which it shouldn't be. He's going to be a spot-up guy. No. And throughout his career, he's been an excellent three-point shooter. He seemed to have lost confidence in his three-point shot. within the last few months here for
I don't know
whatever
if-
reason.
I don't think he has the legs for it anymore. I just think that he's so old, like him being 38. I just feel, and he turns 39. He's either 37 turning 38 or 38 turning 39 in like 2 weeks. His birthday's like early May. But I just feel with him, it's just the fact that he just doesn't have the legs and he's having to play 38, 40 minutes a game. Like, he doesn't get a break with campaign being out. Like, he just plays a lot. So fourth quarter time comes along, I just don't think he can do it, like, consistently. I think if he played 25 minutes, he might be more apt to take those threes. But with the heavy minutes he's logging right now, I don't see it. So maybe, I don't know, is campaign due to come back?
He probably will be round 2. I don't really know what his injury is.
Because if he does, then that would definitely help, because then you could spell Chris Paul minutes throughout the game, and then at the end of the game, he might be a player again and not just a mannequin in the corner.
Look, if you gotta, if your playoff hopes hinge on if campaign can come back, you already are fucked up. So I don't like that for the Suns.
That's
but
not
as
wrong.
far as Chris Paul, as far as Chris Paul, I mean, it's some short corner threes that he's passing up. I don't know if that's legs. To me, that's more confidence than it is legs. He kind of paces himself throughout the game anyway. Doesn't play at a fast pace.
Maybe both.
He is
I don't
playing
know.
heavier minutes. He is playing heavier minutes than in the regular season. But this is something I was seeing in the regular season too, when the few times they did have Durant, he would pass up open threes in favor of a 15-footer or just give up the rock. But no, I mean, especially now that I'm seeing Denver get stops, Anthony Edwards is tough to guard for them, but he's such an athletic force compared to Durant and Booker, where you can kind of keep them in front of you at least. Granted, Booker's getting to the rim whenever he wants as well. They're going to give him problems. I mean, it's fucking Booker and Durant. But the way their offense runs, the fact that the Suns are really only 6 deep and, they're not going to be able to stop Denver. So what's going to happen on those nights where they can't? What's going to happen on those nights where Torrey Craig does not have his shot falling like he does against the Clippers? It'll be super tough. I mean, that series is automatically going 6 or 7, but the way Durant has been going the last couple of years where he gets injured every few weeks, and now you're immediately playing him 42, 45 minutes a game. Yeah, it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough. And they better... I'm assuming they will win tonight. I predict they will win tonight. I don't think that's crazy to say. But if for some reason the Clippers win, which isn't crazy, by the way, because they've played with them every step of the way. And if they simply just had fucking Kawhi this series, I think this is a 7-game series.
Yeah.
And to answer your question, I think the Clippers should get away from Kawhi as soon as they can. Just take PG and Russ, take all you can get back for Kawhi, and see what you can do, because he's just never going to be healthy in the playoffs. It seems like, anyway. It just seems that way. He goes out, plays a great game 2. Oh, Kawhi's sitting for game 3. Oh, maybe it's just a break for one game. Maybe he's coming back for game 4. Nope, he's out for game 4. And, of course, he's going to be out tonight, too. So, yeah, if I was them, I would get rid of him. We'll see. We'll see with that. But
I agree.
But
And
Phoenix,
there's someone's going to take him. There's a market for him. I just don't know if the market's going to be exactly what his talent's worth just because of the injury problems, but there's obviously a market for Kawhi. Listen, I'll take him in Miami. I'll deal with the injury risks. We'll figure out a deal. Get him and Jimmy together. Yeah, but anyways, I don't know if you have any more on the series if you wanted to move on.
yeah, I mean, the Suns.
No, listen, I'm going to let you know right now, I would not trade Jimmy for Kawhi straight up. Absolutely not. I know Kawhi's a better player.
You'd have to give up Bam. You'd have to give up Bam.
I maybe can consider that iffy, but I would not trade Kawhi for Jimmy straight up right now. Jimmy, I mean, I wouldn't have done it before.
Breaking news.
Because Kawhi's just not healthy enough. I know Jimmy's going to be there in the playoffs, and he can play as well as anybody in the playoffs, apparently. I mean, he went toe-to-toe with LeBron in the finals in 2020. Like, went back and forth with him. Was arguably the best player on the floor. So, I would take Jimmy over Kawhi.
Back to this series, though, the Suns, depth was my worry before for them, like for not going deep in the playoffs, and depth is still my concern for them. as far as the Clippers go, I would like to see Ty Lue play Rocco more, which is what Clipper fans have been screaming for the last 3-4 months, really. I think he's perfect as their small ball 5 rather than Batum or what was it? Game 3, they went, I think they were basically playing Russ as their center.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They went 5 guys who were 6'6" and below, and they played Rocco about 5 minutes of that game. Last game, they played Marcus Morris at the 5. I'd like to see Rocco in that spot. It's been amazing watching Russ just play full force on both ends. He's actually legitimately been giving Durant problems. It's been exactly the series I thought it would be as far as like how fun the games are, how great the matchups were. I was incredibly looking forward to the Kawhi Durant matchup, and we got all of 2 games of that. I don't know. It's disappointing not being able to see this full Clippers squad together. Again, the only time we've seen it together was the bubble, and they choked horrendously. The bubble's the bubble, but they choked horrendously. I've never seen a team shit their pants collectively like that, the way they did against the Nuggets in a Game 7. So whatever. I mean, I just feel bad for Clipper fans because this is the same story every year with them. I hope Russ stays there. Makes sense. He's from LA, left the Lakers. He's here. Hopefully they sign him to a couple years for a deal. He's going to play hard. He'll be there every night. You ain't got to worry about that with Russ unless he's seriously injured. You know what I mean? So you could at least have him and Paul George. And then if they decide to keep Kawhi, cool. You have Kawhi when you want him. At least you'll have some stability all the way through. I do think they need like a pick and roll big type, not just like a Zubac, who does run the pick and roll, but he's more of a back to the basket type of center. So I'd like to see them get like a mobile big who can maybe switch out on the perimeter here and there.
Bam
More versatile
Adebayo.
big. I think that would work. Bam Adebayo. Exactly. Someone like that. And
Kawhi and a
that
Bam.
would give them some.
I could probably get down with the Kawhi and a Bam package. I could manage to do that and be okay.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, and we'll argue about it another time. But talking about the Suns, talking about the Clippers, the Heat, this is exactly why I'm so big on depth, because injuries do happen. I think depth. I think you said last time you only need 6 players. I truly think you need 8 or 9 players.
I said 7 to 8.
At least want to be deep.
Has always been my
I thought
7
you
to
said
8.
6. I think you said 6 or 7.
You need 7. You need 7 to 8. I've always said in the playoffs you need 5. You're starting 5, 2 bench players, and then a guy in the 8 that you can kind of rotate. That's always, at least. I mean, I don't know why I would have said 6, because that's always been my thing. 7 or 8 players in the playoffs. I think that you just can shorten your rotation to them. I've always believed this is 7, if not 8, in the playoffs. I don't think you can get it done with 6, unless your 5 are like all timers. But anyways,
Lakers Grizzlies.
Speaking of all timer, I got LeBron's good.
LeBron is good.
Play basketball. Well. You can play basketball.
LeBron's great. The Grizzlies had last night's game too. They had it. I would not be surprised if the Grizzlies win on Wednesday. That's A. B, I think this is not breaking news here, but I think it's a completely different series if they at least even just have Steven Adams, to deal with the rebounding. LeBron has a 20-20 night last night as far as rebounding goes, which is unusual to say the least. He's very good at playing the power forward position, like to a T when he wants to, which is crazy.
He did it in Miami for years.
Yeah, I mean like a true power forward. Like he played it last night like a Charles Barkley would with those rebounds. You know what I mean? Like an old school power forward. I have the same concern though with LeBron as I do with Durant. With all these, they're playing him heavy minutes here in the first round, and it looks like we're gonna get Lakers Warriors. Kind of giving away my prediction for the rest of that series, and I think. Hypothetically, if we're fast forwarding, I would give the edge a little bit to the Warriors just based on that. because LeBron's already dealing with a foot injury. He's playing heavy minutes. This Grizzlies team is no joke. You got to sacrifice yourself on defense at least. Ja's playing amazing. Desmond Bane's playing amazing. If Memphis can get some more shooters in the offseason, I think that would be the most beneficial, especially with the style of play that Ja plays with, just attacking the rim. Ja damn near tried to kill himself last night with that charge on LeBron towards the end of the game. He had like a 3-on-1. He's like, you know what? I'm just going to try to clear LeBron right here. And I thought both of them were going to get injured. He landed on LeBron's chest, and his goddamn feet were above the rim when he was doing a somersault midair.
He has no care for his body, and he has no care for his body, and his hands already injured. But yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's going to be.
He was going to break his hand last night.
Yeah, just and sometimes his other one. He's wild. Ja just has no chill at all playing basketball. But I do agree with your take on the Lakers. I think Memphis is going to win Game 5. I do think the Lakers probably take it in 6. I cannot picture LeBron losing 3 straight. And the Game 7 I'd put it with them too, but the way the series is going, I could see them winning in 6. And I do think they're going to play the Warriors. I don't know if you saw De'Aaron Fox is out probably in Game 5.
They called him doubtful. I think he's going to play.
I was going to say with a broken finger. So I could see him out Game 5 and playing Game 6. But either way, he's going to be hampered a little bit, so that's a blow to the Kings. So I do end up thinking, I thought the Warriors were going to win before in a very close contested series. The series has been the best series so far. And I do think it's going to continue to. Yeah, I was going to say, and I do continue to think it's going to be very close, but I do have the Warriors edging it out. Other than the last
How many
40,
games?
Other than last, I would go. I'm going 6 because I do think De'Aaron Fox will miss Game 5. I think that will be the difference in Game 5 and then Game 6.
You had it in 6 prior to,
Golden
right?
State's going to allow that to get back. What's up?
You had it 6 before the series, right?
I had 6 before the series. Yeah, I don't think Golden State's going to let it get back to 7 in Sacramento. I don't think they want that. So I just sometimes I feel like when you're a good enough team or you have a good enough player, they can kind of say no, kind of like Curry did in Game 3. Was no, we're doing that. Or Jimmy last night was no, this is not going wherever. And other than the last 55 seconds of the Game 4, Curry's been excellent throughout the entire series. That and then the one-legged 3-10 Game 1 was a little questionable. I thought he had time to put both down, but I guess he didn't. But
I thought that shot was all right.
I thought it was fine, but I just thought he had time to set himself a little bit more. I kind of wish he would have. I think he would have had a little cleaner release on it and possibly would have made this shot and to go to OT. But yeah, the timeout, the Chris Webber moment wasn't a good one for him, and then going way too early in the shot clock and missing the floater wasn't great for him either. So, wasn't a great minute for Wardell, but they pulled it out, so it's okay. I do think though the Lakers Warriors next round, because I do think that's what we're gonna get. I think it may be the greatest thing in television, getting another LeBron, Steph. I think that's going to be a fun 7 probably. I think it goes 6 or 7. I would lean the Warriors now, honestly, off of shooting. I don't think the Lakers shoot well enough to fully stay in, because the Warriors can go on their runs, and I don't think that the Lakers fully can match that. And I was Clay's been playing well. Jordan Poole plays well at home. Steph's obviously been playing great. Draymond's looked active all playoffs, so I would lean them right now. But again, Anthony Davis is a game changer. So if Anthony Davis is a real Anthony Davis, that could change.
I'll save my predictions for that series if that's what it ends up being.
If that's the series, yeah.
I do think I said this Warriors Kings was going 7 before the series. I think it's still going 7. Mm-hmm. Somehow we had it listed for our post to the Instagram that I said 6. I don't know how that happened, but I said 7. I think it's still going to be 7. I think De'Aaron Fox is playing games 5, 6, and 7. I think if De'Aaron Fox does miss game 5 because he is listed as doubtful, I think he plays 6 and 7 without a doubt. Yeah, it would be tough. If he did happen to miss a game 5, it would be tough winning that game in Golden State. But I believe Fox plays on Wednesday. I believe the Kings go up 3-2. I believe the Warriors win games 6 and 7. And no, this has been one of the most fun first round series of recent memory. It seems like we're getting more and more good first round series, though, with how loaded the West is and just the amount of injuries that happen during the year, to where you get a team like Minnesota falling to the 8 seed and such, and the Warriors falling to a 6 seed. You get more of these matchups. But this has been fantastic. Like, it's been up and down. It's been exactly what I thought, up and down, 3-point shots. Malik Monk's been amazing for the Kings. Horder's been nowhere to be found in this series. Thank God Keegan Murray showed up for him, because he was nowhere to be found up until last game. Sabonis, he doesn't even want to shoot a 15-footer anymore. He's playing pretty much strictly at the rim. He's still rebounding the ball very well, but I feel like for whatever reason, he's lost confidence in his shot. I think Draymond's doing a very good job on him when he is playing.
De'Aaron Fox starting to enter superstar status. Him and Anthony Edwards are two guys these playoffs that, to me, are taking like a next step. And Brunson. Let me not forget Jalen Brunson, too. I think Jalen Brunson, I think all three of them are like stepping up. And you're like, okay, so is Brunson has to be a top 10 guard in the game. And you're like, okay, is Anthony Edwards creeping into top 5 shooting, like top 3 shooting guards, maybe even higher? Like him and Devin Booker kind of can become a question a little bit. And then you have De'Aaron Fox, and you're like, well, like you just think to yourself, he's a different kind of explosive than Ja Morant, but he's as explosive as Ja Morant when it comes to like speed, quickness, and like shifting his first step. Obviously, Ja's is elevating, but he's more durable. He feels more durable than Ja, just because he's not only a high flyer, he plays his game a lot lower to the ground. So he seems like he's gonna get injured. Like he seems like he's gonna be more durable. So
yeah,
like,
he's certainly less
De'Aaron
reckless
Fox
than
is,
Ja Morant. Ja Morant
so he's just like he's so kill people. Like he's playing like Zion did in high school.
Yeah, for real.
But yeah, but that's kind of been my takeaways from that. But we definitely can talk more about it when the series start to get to the second round, because that's probably when we're going to be next for the most part. I mean, we might be come back before like the Warriors or some game 7. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll reconvene right before round 2 for sure, because I can't wait. Because you know what? More than likely, this always happens. More than likely, one of the little mini predictions we made, like, we think the Bucks are going to win tomorrow kind of thing. Like, more than likely, one of these is going to be wild wrong. Like, we could, by the time we get back here, we could have the Cavs might be in the second round. Who knows what? Maybe every single team came back from their deficit. I don't think that's going to happen, but who the hell knows?
It's all game 7s across the board, except for obviously the Sixers.
That's my dream. By the way, that's one thing I wanted to say too, and I can save it for next time. But that's how I watch every series that's not to do with like the Celtics. Every series I'm rooting for game 7. So anytime anyone goes up 1-0, I'm rooting for the other team to win. Like, ideally, I want every series to go 7. A, because I love basketball. B, because the fuck do we get after basketball season for those 2 months before football? Not a damn thing. So
nothing.
Yeah, I need basketball to go as long as possible. So I'm always rooting for game 7. So that's how I'm watching these series. But we'll talk more about how I watch basketball, or how we digest basketball, because I find that interesting. Yeah. I want to see what you and Camden's thoughts are on that next time we all meet and discuss these playoffs. But I know you got to get the hell out of here. This was the Warner Brothas podcast. Keem, do you have anything else to add before we close here?
No, I have nothing to add. Actually, wait, hold on. Part 4, the finale, 5-1, top 15 MVP since the merger. Kyle gave on his thoughts as well. Thank you for that again. But go check that out. That's going to be dropping as of right now at 1, but you're going to see it. But it's going to already be dropped by the time this is out. So Go check that out. Go see the list. It's interesting.
Absolutely. Good job on that, Keenan. Congrats.
Thank you.
Listen, we're going to get the hell out of here. This was the Warner Brothas podcast. Like, subscribe, follow, stream, watch us on YouTube, whatever. Consume the podcast, rate us. And Keenan, great talking to you. I will see you probably at the end of the week before we get before we get to the second round for sure.
We're out.
Have a good one. Danny, you have a good one as well. Sleeping in the back there. And